afternoon, everybody. It is that time. Once again, it is time to turn it on, to strap into your seats and get ready to blast off into the Uncharted Podcast Network, where every episode is the main event. My name is John, and as always, this is Uncharted Territory. This week we have a couple things on the docket, but before, as always, follow us on the socials, so Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, all the good stuff, right? There will be a slide at the end of the video that will show all of my socials. So go ahead and jump into all those. Most of them are like at the Uncharted PCN, but you can find most of them by the Uncharted Podcast Network. Thank you guys so very much for tuning in as always. Let's get right into it. Starship Flight 12 has happened since our last time on the show, and they had a mishap, or it happened kind of just before my last episode last week. They had a mishap with Booster 19 on its descent flight back towards the Gulf of Mexico, and something occurred, and the vehicle blew up before. I mean, it made it to the surface, but it had engine issues, and then it just pounded the ocean at terminal velocity. Initially, the FAA had spoken and said that they weren't initially going to require a mishap investigation, mostly due to there was no report of damage or injury, so they felt like SpaceX could kind of handle it on their own. And since then, the FAA has reached out to NASA Spaceflight and said this, quote, "After a thorough assessment of the operation, the FAA has determined the May 22nd SpaceX Starship Flight 12 launch resulted in a mishap. The mishap involved the Super Heavy booster as it flew back towards the Gulf of America after stage separation. There are no reports of public injury or damage to private or to public property. The FAA is now requiring SpaceX to conduct a mishap investigation. The FAA will oversee the SpaceX-led investigation, be involved in every step of the process, and approve SpaceX's final report, including any corrective actions," end quote. So the FAA does want to know exactly what happened and why it happened. This is not shocking whatsoever. The FAA has very routinely had SpaceX do mishap investigations after almost every single incident that they've had, almost every single flight, to be honest, because almost every flight has had a mishap of some sort or another. So this is not uncommon. It does, at least as far as I can tell, ground the Starship program until that mishap is done. However, in the past, they have approved injunctions that would allow another test while an open investigation exists. So that's, I assume, what is on deck as they kind of get close to Flight 13. Currently, I say close. Currently, they're not close. All of the vehicles are currently in some sort of testing and have not even made it to the main launch pad yet for engine testing or anything like that. So we're probably a few months away from anything involving Flight 13. But that does give SpaceX the correct amount of time to figure out what happened. And what I do know is from previous flights, SpaceX tends to not miss twice. So whatever happened this time will get fixed, and pretty stereotypically, you don't see it again on the next flight. They're normally pretty good about fixing those issues live and in the moment and making sure they don't happen again. So that's the good news on that, and that'll cap our Starship portion of the show here. In other rocket news, Blue Origin's New Glenn experienced an anomaly on May 28th. On the pad during a static fire test. It exploded at LC-36, Launch Complex 36, at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Base, which is just separated from the Cape Canaveral from Kennedy Space Center in Florida. To my knowledge at this point, through all the stuff I've seen, they haven't come to an exact cause of the anomaly. You can see the deluge system go off. You guys should go over and check out again, over on all the socials. I posted the video kind of live and in the moment as it was happening. But yeah, you can see the water deluge system ignite at the bottom. You can see the initial ignition of the engines on New Glenn. And then, bam, it looks like a nuke goes off. It literally mushroom clouds. One of the lightning rod, stacks at the pad got destroyed. Lots of ground support damage from the looks of it. Blue Origin has said since that they believe most of the ground support in terms of tanking and stuff like that is going to be okay, and that they didn't experience anything that was too detrimental to the functionality of the pad. They will have to rebuild, obviously, a lightning tower, and the other tower they said they believe can get fixed kind of where it's at without having to be completely knocked down. There's a lot of concrete work that's going to have to be done. There were reports of debris all the way up north past Daytona Beach, and definitely south of the launch site as well. Blue Origin said in their statement on X, "We experienced an anomaly during today's hot fire test. All personnel have been accounted for. We will provide updates as we learn more." So the good news coming out of that, obviously, is, well, nobody was injured, right? The pad was clear. Normally during fueling and tanking and detanking and all that kind of stuff, when there's live propellant on the pads, normally they are completely free of personnel at that point in time. So good to hear that there was nobody injured. This there was like a building right in front of that launch pad that had the other New Glenn booster in it, and Blue Origin said that they think that the booster is okay. I had heard kind of conflicting speculations from NASA down in that area that they thought the secondary New Glenn booster was damaged. That New Glenn booster that was housed in that warehouse has been flight tested and had returned to the pad safely. So it would suck for that one to not be in flight ready condition going forward. Again, nothing confirmed from Blue Origin at that point, other than they think it was going to be okay. But this will set back a lot of things. This sets back Artemis, as Blue Origin was selected as one of the final companies to do the lunar lander program. This will set back New Glenn itself and the Amazon program, because they're doing Amazon Sats. What was that? Amazon satellites and stuff like that. So I mean, this is going to be a big setback for uh, Blue Origin, but and it was cool to see the support kind of coming through from other space companies who have experienced anomalies like this in the past. SpaceX being one of them, who is very supportive of Blue Origin, essentially saying, just, you got to move on. You got to put this one in the rear view. It sucks. Learn from it and move on. Again, SpaceX is really good about that. SpaceX is really good about having bad things happen and then learning from them and making sure they don't duplicate. So now you got to see if a company as big as Blue Origin has the ability to do the same thing, and whether or not they can turn it around fast, because the Artemis program is now on the clock, pending whatever happens with Blue Origin going forward. So that'll cap the space portion of Uncharted Territories today. Let's get into the wrestling portion. It was a very busy weekend for me between work and I attended my very first Fan Expo. So I didn't get to watch a lot of wrestling live, including the PLE and stuff like that. I obviously know the results. I've seen them kind of go through, and then I watched Raw this week, which had the beginning of the King of the Ring tournament. And to be honest, that's what I'm going to talk about today, is King of the Ring. King of the Ring, man, used to be such a cool thought process, and especially the 90s versions of the King of the Ring. The King of the Ring was very much so the decider of, are you the best in pro wrestling? Are you the best at what you do? It was an endurance challenge. It was a tournament style format, and you wrestled that entire bracket in one evening, meaning that you had to wrestle 2, 3, 4 times in one night. And in order to be the best, you had to beat all of them and endure the gauntlet, essentially, that was King of the Ring. King of the Ring since has been really broken up, in my opinion, and really it doesn't hold the same merit as it once did. King of the Ring now happens over multiple events, so you don't have to run that gauntlet in one night. The first matches of all the King of the Rings tournaments and Queen of the Ring tournaments are all fatal four-ways. So you start with 4 fatal four-ways, so you get 16 competitors right out the gate, but then you narrow it down really quick. You're going to narrow those 4 down, and you're going to blow through the bracket at that point. It just feels forced. It feels rushed, and it doesn't feel as fun as it once did. It feels very much so like a mockery at this point, just into the structure of how King of the Ring functions. I've heard obvious speculations that Seth Rollins will be the favorite coming out on the men's side. Watching this week, you obviously saw Obafemi destroy in his King of the Ring match, but I've heard Seth Rollins as the listed favorite, so we could get Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns for the World Heavyweight title. Then you go to the women's side, you go to Queen of the Ring, and Liv Morgan is in the tournament. So she is essentially fighting for the right to face herself. And to be honest, as much as I think that is ridiculous, if you're gonna do something like that, they should just like have her win. Have her win, and then like not show up, or like she goes to the ring just to like raise the belt and the pyro, and like she's queen of the ring. Like you know what I mean? I guess like if you're gonna do it, just do it. But I don't understand having a champion or the champion in the tournament to face their own title. I feel like that is just a weird situation to be a part of. And I can't wait to see how it falls out, to be honest with you. But until then, it is an interesting situation, and I will keep updating on how the King of the Ring and Queen of the Ring tournaments go. But my opinion, like I said, overall is King of the Ring used to be very literally to determine who the best was, who could beat everybody, who was the best of the best of the best, who could endure the challenge, who was there from the start to the finish. Obviously having title matches come out of it is fantastic, but it was really like the endurance challenge portion was the best part of the King of the Ring tournament, and now that's just completely gone. Now it's very much so. Let's see if we can get it done in essentially 3 or 4 Raws, and then you just move on from there. And the winner does get a title match, but you don't not having those guys run through that gauntlet in one night just makes it so that it's just another day. It's just another, yep, I have a match this week, and then next week I'll get my one-on-one. As long as you made it through Fatal 4-Way, you'll get a one-on-one, and then you'll get a one-on-one for the final, which again, to me, just it defeats the original purpose of King of the Ring. King of the Ring used to be something that was really uh prestigious in my opinion when it came to pro wrestling, and now it is just another thing, just another kind of made up botched thing, which disappointing in my opinion. But that's just my opinion on that situation. Let's move on. Let's get out of WWE and let's talk Denver Fan Expo. Denver Fan Expo. This was my first time there. I only went the Sunday, so I only went the last day. I obviously knew people throughout the community who went all the days, multiple days, whatever it was, and it was a blast. In the one day that I was there, it was an absolute great time. It was fun to be a part of the Roosevelts community. This is one of the Denver exclusive Roosevelts. This is You Will Board My Boat. So there you go. It is the Moana themed Denver exclusive. There you go. Roosevelt's right there. Super fun to hang out with that community. It's such a positive and great community. My brother essentially piloted the Denver meetup for Fan Expo this year, did a bunch of events, did a barbecue at his house. They did a Rockies game, they did a brewery, did a bunch of really cool stuff, kind of bringing in a lot of out of towners in order to enjoy Denver Fan Expo. And a lot of those guys are absolutely amazing guys. It was really cool to hang out with such a awesome and inclusive community. It was a community it took me a very long time to get into, but once I was in, welcomed with open arms. Me and my brother's children have kind of earned the Nepo baby term in terms of that we came in kind of riding on the coattails of my brother. But that community has never been opposed to having us, and they're always welcoming with open arms. Today I actually did a chug train challenge on the Roosevelt Insiders page, which essentially we've all kind of done like the ALS ice bucket challenge and stuff like that. You just challenge somebody, they got to chug something. And today I did the Stone Cold Steve Austin beer bash, so that was a absolute fun time. But Fan Expo is really fun. It's obviously a Comic Con. It's a really big cosplay, uh, you know, superheroes, anime, art, all sorts of really cool, lots of celebrity stuff like that. The day that I was there was Lord of the Rings Day, so they had a lot of Lord of the Ring based panels and stuff like that. Um, Again, for my first Fan Expo, super fun time, super long day. I don't know how people do it for all 4 days. I don't know that I have the endurance to do that, especially with my people meter. But absolutely an absolute fun time. And I figured I would show some of the at least artwork that I got via Fan Expo. So we'll dig into the nifty bag of tricks that I have right down here at my legs, and let's see what we can come up with. All right. So we we ran into a guy. I'm pretty sure the email or whatever that we got, or at least the Instagram that we got, was Rushmore Art. And what they do is they make Mount Rushmores of all sorts of different things: Star Wars, football, Star Trek, uh, all sorts of different fandoms, animations, all sorts of different stuff. And of course, they had a bunch of wrestling ones. The guy who was running the booth, we could tell we were, there kind of at the last minute on the last day. He had 10 wrestling ones at the time, and he offered all 10 of them to us, $10 a piece, $100 for all 10. Unfortunately, he didn't have the Lucha one. To be honest, it was the one that was probably the least cool looking, but it's because if you don't know a whole lot about Lucha wrestling, Rey Mysterio would have been the most recognizable face on the thing, right? So, we unfortunately did not get the Luchas, but we did get a bunch of other ones. So we'll start with this one. There you go. So let's see what we got going on here, right? We got Sting, we got the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, you got Lex Luger, and you got the Nature Boy, Ric Flair. And to be honest, my favorite part of almost all of these is the sky is going to be different in all of them. It's just always such really cool contrast to the rock wall portion. Obviously, this is probably fixating on the early WCW days. Me and my brother kind of agreed that Dusty was kind of a weird person to have on there, as he was way more behind the scenes at that point than anything else. But this is definitely the WCW Mount Rushmore that I got. Let's go to the next one, which is going to be the Attitude Era. We got The Undertaker. We got Razor Ramon. Got Shawn Michaels. You got Bret the Hitman Hart. Again, the sky is incredible in these. Absolutely beautiful. And this one is going to be one of my personal favorites, as this is about the era of wrestling that I was at least introduced to. I came in later than this in terms of age. I would have been, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4 probably at this point. But this one is one of my favorites because I recognize all these talent, and all these talent were people who, when I was a kid, if I was going to be a wrestler, I wanted to be like somebody on this wall. Shawn Michaels being probably, top 3 all time for me. Arguably number 1, bestowed upon me by my brother for that one for sure. He was the biggest Shawn Michaels fan. But I have, the Hitman glasses actually coincidentally over on my wall. I have a Taker Roosevelt. I have a Bret Roosevelt. Razor, one of the best characters of all time. This one is a beautiful, beautiful piece. We will move on to the NWO. As X-Pac, you got Kevin Nash, you got Hogan, you got Scott Hall. Because at that point, he's Scott, he's not Razor anymore. And I really liked this one for the black and white contrast. Again, the sky, cool. They got lightning up in there, which is fantastic. But this one is a super cool throwback to NWO days. I really liked the black and white. How could you not like the OG black and white for this one? So, man, the camera didn't like it. That's for sure. That tweaked out a little bit right there. On to the next one. The next one being the PG era. You got Brock. You got Punk. You got Cena, you got Daniel Bryan. Again, the sky, absolutely fantastic on this one. And this one I got mostly because this is the era of wrestling at which I grew up in the most. The PG era is definitely like peak from when I was a child. I definitely don't love the era in terms of the quality of wrestling at that point in time. And the stories were really boring because they had slimmed them down to be kid safe. But this is definitely the most recognizable era for me as a child, is going to be this PG era Mount Rushmore. And then we will finish it off with the Samoan Dynasty. You got, at this point, he's still wearing the vest, so you got the Big Dog, you got Jimmy and Jay, the Usos, and you got Rikishi. This one is fantastic. I really love the respect and love for Rikishi on this one. He's not somebody who always gets brought up in terms of the Samoan Dynasty, but Rikishi, underrated big man by so many means. One of my all-time favorites. And of course, Roman. That's the OTC right there. Young OTC when he was kind of being forced on everybody, but an absolutely amazing piece of art. Again, Rushmore Arts Those ones were fantastic and absolutely. The guy was a blast to talk to. Again, you got to tell there at the end of the con there was a lot of don't necessarily want to pack these up and bring them home, but also we benefited real hard from that, and we got some really great art coming out of it. So let's move on to the next set that I got. These ones came from Jamie. I think it's Cocker. It's either Cocker or Coker. But Jamie, I'm gonna say Cocker for today. Jamie Cocker Creations. This is the first one I got. It is the Fiend Bray Wyatt. Sorry, we're gonna get some weird reflections coming out of this because it's gonna go right to my camera. I'm sorry. Let's see. Doesn't really get any better for that, but back them on up. There you go. The Fiend. At least do that. Actually, didn't help at all. Sorry, guys. Trying to make up my mind here. Bam. But he's holding a NWO John Cena in here. He's got Alexa and Lily up at the top. I love anything that's Bray Wyatt. I am a collector of Bray Wyatt stuff. I'll have to show one day just via, a video, all of my Bray Wyatt stuff. I have the Howdy mask. I have the Fiend mask. I have a bunch of the Bray action figures. I have all the Wyatt 6 stuff. I love everything about Bray. So when I find good pieces of art like this for Bray, I'm always on board. And this one is a really good one. I love this piece. So fantastic Fiend work right there. Another Jamie Cocker creation is going to be the OTC. This is going to be from his first, the big long title reign, the 1360-day title reign. All of the figures that he is holding are all people he beat in that run. So Bray Wyatt, Jey Uso, Daniel Bryan, Brock Lesnar, Cody Rhodes, Drew McIntyre, John Cena, Kevin Owens, all in this picture. All people that he toppled in the massive reign that he had. The awesome Samoan background. You can see the Ufalafa hanging out over here. This one is also an absolutely incredible piece. And I absolutely love this work right here. Again, lover of all things Roman. So, absolutely amazing piece. And then we will finish it, the Jamie Cocker creations, with a very evil, very nice man right here, Danhausen. And he's holding a Matt Cardona. He's holding a CM Punk. And he's holding himself right here. This one is an amazing piece. Danhausen, in my opinion, has absolutely taken wrestling by storm. He is incredible. AEW underutilized him, and we actually chatted briefly about the underusage of Danhausen in AEW with the next artist that I'll show. His name was AJ. But this is, again, one of my favorites. I love Danhausen, so finding Danhausen pieces and original Danhausen pieces are awesome. And all of these that I got are signed by artists, or by the artists. So these are pretty fantastic. Unfortunately, the Rushmore art one, only one got signed out of the 10. Totally fine. But all of these ones, all three of mine for the Jamie Cockers have his signature on them. These are awesome pieces of art. And then we will go to the last of my wrestling art. Trying to be delicate, These ones will be less reflective. That's going to be the good news. All right. So these ones are by AJ Moore. AJ is an absolutely amazing guy. And to be honest, could have sat at his booth and talked to him just about wrestling for hours and hours. He knows exactly what he's talking about. He's an absolute lover and watcher of the product. So there was no weird beating around the bush. He had opinions. He liked giving them. And we liked to just have a banter with him about wrestling. And he was really good about that. I could not turn this piece down because this is one of my all-time favorites. I think he's underrespected and underappreciated, and especially on the WWE scale. But this guy, the Demon Finn Balor, this is an amazing piece. Again, all of them signed. AJ Moore right there. Bam, signature. Absolutely incredible. Seriously, I love this. This is one of my favorite pieces that I got the entire weekend. And honestly, AJ's stuff really took the cake for me. His work is absolutely phenomenal. He should be extremely proud because he makes awesome stuff. So this is my Demon Finn Balor. I can never turn it down when they come up, and I've already said that. So when Bray Wyatt comes up, can't turn it down, and this gives you all the depictions of Bray Wyatt. Original Bray, a little bit more on the original, but this is advanced a little further. Firefly Funhouse and the Fiend. This is an amazing piece. You got some of the puppets down on the bottom. Again, ultra amazing. Signed by AJ. He is an absolute stud, and this piece shows it. I love this piece. So, go check him out. Go find him on socials, guys. Seriously, he's awesome. And then the last one, again, I just can't help myself. I would have bought every piece he had. I really would have. It would have been ridiculous. But this one is very evil and very nice. This is an amazing Danhausen piece. I love the hypnotic swirls happening over here. Such good depictions of Danhausen. This one is a very amazing piece, and again, signed by AJ. That one is an absolutely beautiful art piece. So I also bought a lightsaber and stuff like that, but that's just, I can kind of rag on my wife here a little bit. See if she actually watches the episodes, you know what I mean? Because she may or may not have gotten this. Life indeed finds a way. We'll see if she watches. We'll see if I get any weird spite comments, you know what I mean? All right. Well, that is going to wrap us up for the day. We got to almost 30 minutes on this one, so that is fantastic. Go check out Roosevelt's. Again, check out these awesome shirts right here. You will board my boat. This is an amazing piece. It was a Denver exclusive for Denver Fan Expo. I also got the Yeti, which was pretty sweet. My wife got the Lucifer blue Mustang horse that essentially is at DIA and stuff like that, and is very representative of Denver. So we got 3 out of 4 of the Denver Con exclusives. The last one being a Masters of the Universe. We did not get that one, but we got all the other ones. And again, the community is just fantastic. So check out roosevelts.com. It is an awesome community to be a part of. So go ahead and check that out. Again, at the end of this video, there will be all of our socials will pop up. Please like, follow, share, and subscribe to all of the socials. And as always, we look forward to doing this next week. Sorry for the delay this week, but I'm glad that we could get this episode in. And it has been fantastic. Thank you so very much for tuning into this week's Uncharted Territories. I'll see you next week.